absolutely gigantic.
That is a pretty big gecko.
This is just a yearling female.
Okay, so it says that we're live right now. I don't know. I can't like see the chat or like anything. So this is not good.
Great.
But
It's always enjoyable.
that's what always happens, right?
What do you said you're gonna?
I don't know. I'm gonna try to see if I can like pull up the stream on my end. Yeah, we're live right here. Okay,
So
cool.
it says that we're live right now.
There we go.
Okay,
All right.
we are actually here now.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. What's up, guys? Welcome to Exotic Idiotics. For our this is like our second consecutive Friday night live stream.
What do you said you're gonna?
Weekly thing.
We I guess this is gonna become a normal thing where we're gonna start streaming every Friday night, and just we're trying to get guests lined up and whatever. So tonight we've got Kyle from Garden State Exotics here, and he is going to talk to us a little bit about breeding. Wow, I mean, you breed all kinds of stuff, so I'll let you kind of tell everybody. What you do. So I mean, I know you do Lychees, I know you do gargoyles and crested geckos, and that's it. That's all I know. So I guess let's just start off, man. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, your company, and we'll start with that.
Yeah. So hi guys. My name is Kyle Curran. I am the owner of Garden State Exotics. We're a company based in northern New Jersey. We specialize in Leachianus, pure localities mostly, tokay geckos, gargoyle geckos, chihuahuas, cresteds. What else do we do? And then we also do some exotic turtle species. Obviously, not selling within the state, but we do ship out of state. Um, and and we do have a pair of rhinoceros iguanas.
Dude, awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to. That's
What's
all
up,
I could
AJ?
think of at
Sorry,
the moment.
saying hi to chat. If you have the chat pulled up, if you and anyone asks you questions or whatever, feel free to like say hello.
Yeah, I don't even know. Honestly, I have no clue how to do that.
So
but
if you go to our channel, and then at
okay.
the very top it should just say that we're live, and then you can just click on it just like you'd click on like a normal video.
I think you got a phone call.
Yeah, you want to know something? I would need to set up my laptop, so if anyone has questions, just blat them out to me, and I'll answer them.
We'll do.
We usually read chat stuff out.
Yeah, we read
anyways.
chat pretty frequently. We try to be interactive with people.
Yeah, I just had to go pick up some cages, so I wasn't really super set up, but
no, it's all good.
We're here anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're happy to have you here, man. We appreciate you coming on. So you said you just had to go pick up PVC cages today for some adult.
Yeah, so currently I have probably like 10 to 15 adults that I haven't paired up yet, Lychees. So they've been sitting around now for a couple months now. They're all within that 3 to 5 year range. So I was like, you know what? I don't have the space as it is, but I was like, you know what? I have to just go out and buy these cages sooner than later. So I was like, might as well just get it out of the way today. They're running short on supplies and stuff like that with the whole shortages of pretty much everything at the moment. So the one guy who I hit up, Paul at PM Herps, told me, he said, hey, I got one extra that came in today. If you want it, I said, all right, I'm on my way.
Nice. Hey, Cactus. What's up, buddy? Good evening. So yeah, that's kind of how we got hooked up with black box cages was because of the shortages and stuff. And so I noticed that they only had like a 1 to 2 week lead time. And I was like, that's incredible. So that's how we actually kind of found out about them, as I was like looking at all these different cage companies, and everybody, I mean, I think Animal Plastics was like 9 months.
Yeah, so I just ordered, so in end of August, I ordered a bunch of display cases for like to do shows. Because I had just a shitty setup whenever I used to go to shows, so I really needed to get like professional looking stuff because like I'm starting to do shows now, and like pretty much I had like this old wooden like display case I would just throw out on the table and then just shove all little deli cups in it. So I was like, you know what, like I'm just gonna like take good amount of money and just invest in like good display cases and yeah. So I was like, this is so weird. I'm like 3 months into it. I'm like, where the hell are these? Like, so I called up the company. They're like, yeah, it's completely on back order because I got like everything custom made. Like, I got my logo on it. I did like a little LED sign above it. Like, it looks dope. And
But they can't make them.
yeah, they can't. Yeah, so they were like, yeah, it's like they were like, if you want your money back, you could have it. And I was like, there's no point in get it back. I was like, just keep it, and I'll just wait it out, I guess.
I think at this point that's just kind of what everybody's stuck doing. I think with just about everything.
No, yeah, for sure.
So how did you get started, like into this?
So
because you're pretty young.
Yeah, so I'm 19 years old. I started when I was probably a little younger than Maddox. I was probably like 12 years old when I first started breeding cresteds. I first started breeding cresteds. Bought my first crested gecko actually from Boris at BB's Crested Geckos, and basically from there, I just kept buying just cresteds. Going on Craigslist, just buying them from local people. At that point in time, when I was buying them, like crested adults, like you could have bought like an adult female for like $100, like $80 to $100.
They're so expensive now.
Yeah, now adult females go for about like 300, like 250 at the minimum. Like it's hard to find. It's hard to find adult females, good looking females now, for anything like under 200. And so I was like at the time, and the thing was, it's like the crested market was so diluted at that time. I don't know if it was diluted or it was just the market wasn't very hyped on them yet, because there wasn't any of these new morphs like the lily whites, the translucent melanistics, the xanthics. There was just none of that going on yet, and the cappuccinos. There was none of that going on yet, and yeah, and the frappuccinos as well.
See, they're saying it's hard to hear you, so get closer to the mic when you talk so that they can hear you.
So yeah, so because none of that was really going on, the crested market as a whole was just so low, and I just had so many at that one point. I was like, all right, like what am I going to do? Just have all these adults sitting here. So I just started pairing up some things, and once I had a bunch of babies, I started doing shows. My first show I ever vended at was actually a very big show. It was the White Plains Reptile Expo in New York City. It's a pretty big show. There's like 400, 500 tables there. And I mean, I was obviously the sole youngest little kid there, and with the shittiest display. So it was like, it was just me. Like I had just a bunch of 20, 30 deli cups thrown out on my table, and with just little cresteds in them, and that was really it. And then I just kept collecting, and just had so many that I started selling to pet stores. Started getting my name out there to like just everyone. So a bunch of local pet stores started buying off me to resell in their store. And after that, I got into gargoyles. Gargoyles at that time were, I think, even lower than cresteds at that time. Like I could have bought adult female gargoyles for like $80, like six. Like I remember, I bought a pair of proven adult gargoyles for like $150 or something like that.
And so, because now the gargoyles are like the hot thing, you know?
Like, yeah.
I mean, like everybody wants gargoyle geckos.
And yeah, like I personally just sold one gargoyle gecko this year for $3,500.
See, that's insane. And then I remember like even like Chihuahuas at one point they were like the poor man's lychee, and now they're like
They're just
not
as
a whole lot
expensive, yeah.
cheaper than lychee geckos.
Yeah,
are.
now so with them, what happened was with them before COVID, like probably like 2 years before COVID, there was a huge spike. If you had a female Chihuahua, any female Chihuahua, it was at a minimum like 2 grand. A minimum like 2 grand. Anything. If it even looked like absolute crap, it was 2 grand.
Yeah.
That was like your starting point, and it just the market was ridiculous. I remember some people like friends of mine were selling adult female like white collars for like 10 grand, 15 grand. Like it was just ridiculous.
Right.
A lot of the buyers were overseas buyers in like Korea and like Europe, but then once COVID hit and we couldn't really get any of the stuff over there, the market fell a bit on the Chihuahuas, and that's where it stands. It's starting to bounce a little bit right now, back up, but for a while it was very low. Like you could have bought adult females for like $600 to $800, Pine Islands.
Yeah.
You could have bought adult female mainlands for like 500, 400 or 500. I mean, I'm not saying like off of some big time breeder, but I'm saying you could go on Fawn, or you could have went on Craigslist or Morph Market, and you could have bought one for like really cheap, and it was just ridiculous. But like the whole pandemic really dropped a lot of the Chihuahua market, but then once everything opened back up, now it's starting to increase back up again, and yeah, with the gargoyles, it was just nuts. Back then, you could have bought an adult pair. Like I said, I bought my first pair for $150.
Yeah, that's insane,
And-
man.
Hair?
A pair,
A
yeah.
pair for
Of
$150.
Chihuahuas.
No, gargoyles.
No,
Gargoyles.
gargoyles. Yeah.
The only ones I've
Well-
ever seen in the store were at a local store, and unsexed babies are like $400. It's crazy now.
Yeah, so like I like the it's funny, that gecko that I sold for 3,500, its parents, I think I paid four for the pair that produced it. I paid $400 for it.
You gotta get into gargoyle geckos.
Okay, see, but that's the problem though, and that was kind of leading me into my next thing though is because you hear a lot about people that are getting into reptile breeding because of just like that. He's like, we should get into gargoyles because you're talking about the amount of money you can make off of them, and as you, I mean, with you getting into it as young as you did.
See, so for me, it's honestly, I don't even really care about the money. Like with me, with babies, I care more about honestly just producing very good quality stuff.
Yeah, which is how it should be.
For sure. So I very strive myself to just keep my lines going and just get. And what I usually do is I keep back all the best stuff for myself. So all of my breeders are very top end animals. I only keep the best stuff. And basically, I mean, just like dogs, you're going to have ones that produce, like the top end stuff produces. And I mean, obviously, not every baby's going to come out super high end.
Right.
Like with the super high end stuff, I mean, I grow it up and I'll either keep it for myself to go back into some of my other groups that are unrelated, or I'll just grow it up and sell it to a customer that wants it for a good price. Or if they don't turn out that well, they usually end up going to local pet stores, or I sell them for a good price at an expo, just because of the fact, like, as I was growing up, I mean, I just remember, like, I would never get a break from anyone. So it's like, I really strive myself on, like, even though people hate me for it, I really strive myself on giving just that one person a break to get their first pet Lychee, to get their first pet Chihuahua, get their first pet Gargoyle, whatever it is, because it's like, we've all been in those shoes. I mean, we all had to start somewhere.
I mean, that was
so it's like,
when I texted you, that was kind of like, you know, one of the things I had told you. I was like, this is, you know, I saw one 10 years ago. I saw a video from Underground Reptiles, and that was the first time that I had seen them. And I remember, you know, it was on their website for like $6 or $7 grand. And I was just like, I will never own one of these things because like I'm not gonna pay $6,000 or $7,000 for like a single gecko, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And so, but that was, that was kind of how we started talking. Is I was like, I'm getting this for my son, and he's always wanted one of these things or whatever. And then you were like, send me the video, and then like we just kind of that's how you ended up on here tonight. Really, I mean,
Yeah, no, yeah, for
is
sure. It's
because you
because
had that connection because you were exactly like you were saying, you
it's
were getting
because
somebody their first one.
yeah, it's like with me, it's I had to really hustle to get a lot of my adults basically. A lot of my animals came from when I used to work for these big time breeders when I was young. When I was 15 to 17, I worked for Steve at Lychees, and currently, right now, from the age about 18 to now, I work for Boris at BB's Crescent Geckos. Ironically, the first guy who I bought my first gecko from, I work part time for him, and I take because so I do track and field as well in college.
Okay,
That's right now. So that's right now paying for my schooling actually. So instead
gotcha.
of taking money, so it's like I don't need the money. So instead of taking the money, I just take geckos.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
That's like you would do
That's
that
like
for
my
spider,
dream.
right, exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So instead of me just taking money, I pretty much just take geckos.
Sweet.
And
Yeah. That's hey. I mean, whatever works, dude. That's awesome.
yeah, now I'm probably at about in total in my whole business, like breeder wise with turtles, all that. We're probably approaching probably like 8 to 900 animals.
Wow. Okay.
I
So
wish I had 8 to 900 animals.
no, you don't.
No, I don't.
No, it's a shitload of work with
Yeah.
trying to
That.
balance
I
this.
think I think what we have is a lot of work, but if we had all these animals times like I don't know what 100.
I mean, the only
Yeah.
good thing is like in New Jersey, it's like pretty much the perfect place to have like turtles. So our like 200 turtles that we do own are pretty much outside all year. So
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
that's the good part of that for sure.
I wish it didn't get quite
Because
so
they go through a natural hibernation process, and it's healthy for them for sure.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so that works out then.
I wish
for
it
you.
didn't get quite so cold here because we've got that little sulcata and he loves to be outside, but he doesn't have a very big portion of the year to go outside for very long.
Yeah,
It's only
no, yeah.
like
So I have
the
a
temperature for
good
the
sized
summertime time.
redfoot group, and yeah, it sucks taking them in this in the winter. It really does. So I know how you feel, bud.
Yeah.
Um,
But then,
but
I mean,
yeah,
but then you see these guys. You see some of the guys in Florida that keep them outside like year
yeah,
round.
I
You
would
know,
love to have that one day
and
for sure.
and that was kind of one of the things. Like when we got our water monitor, I was like, I mean, I already had a space like picked out for them, but I was like, man, if we were in Florida, like we could just build cages outside, and it would be so much easier than doing the basement.
Except that in Florida, a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom house is going to cost you north of 500 grand.
No,
Yeah.
but there's no property tax.
Yeah, there isn't. No, yeah, I know. That's the only thing that's really
Oh
good.
my God, Reptileverse! Thank
Thank you.
you, dude. Man,
And I
anytime he comes in here, he'd be dropping donations. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
I mean, besides what is it called? Besides
Have a but nice to see y'all. Hey, just stay as long as you can, buddy. It's all good. We appreciate you coming by.
I mean, besides that whole property tax you're talking about. I mean, the whole Florida situation. So effed in the
It is
everything. Right.
It is. I mean,
At
the
one
animal
point, I mean,
situation down there.
sooner than later. Right now, I mean, I'm so grateful enough that me and my buddies were able to go down 2 weeks every like spring going into summerish time. So like right at like mid May, me and my two buddies we go down shark fishing every year and stuff like that. And we go herping, and uh, I mean, this year was our best year herping in a very long time. Down in Florida, I mean, I found an eastern indigo snake. I found, which is like one of the rarest snakes in the United States.
Right.
I found a juvenile eastern indigo. I found a bunch of chameleons.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
they've got like veils just running around.
yeah, I
down
found
there.
so many veils. I found
Yeah.
so many veils. So many. Probably between me and my like 3 buddies, we probably found like 50 veiled chameleons.
That's just you
That's
see them
just
for
absurd.
sale. Like, cause when we bought ours, we were looking on like Morph Market, which is where I found you. So
And what you found like a bunch of wild caught
all these
veils.
wild caught, and some of them were gorgeous. They were some of the best
Oh yeah,
looking
no, I mean yeah.
adult veils I've ever seen.
Obviously, you really like. I mean, I'm not a killer, so what I did with a lot of them is I gave them to a buddy who like does like a lot of like research and stuff like that, and they usually use them for um animal interaction programs to like basically like explain to kids like don't like if you get this like because you know what it is, it's so stupid down in Florida. It's an invasive species, but they still sell them in the pet stores down there.
The veils?
They do. Yeah, the veils.
See, I didn't know that.
So
I wish
yeah,
it could be like that with corn
it's
snakes
so
in Georgia.
it's so stupid. I never understood. I'm like, wait, why do they still have veils in pet stores if they're literally an invasive species?
That way,
So
if
they
they sell them and
still-
they get out, then it's just
Yeah,
vicious
I
cycle.
don't know. So basically, a couple my buddies took them and they use them as educational purposes, and they just say like, hey, like, look, like if they explain to kids like if you get these, like, don't let them go. And I mean, besides that, I mean, it's like the whole Everglades right now is so screwed. I mean,
It is. I mean,
so it's like I mean, I think it's going to be a sooner than later point where it's like pretty much you just can't even own reptiles in general in Florida. It's going to get to a point eventually.
yeah, I think. I mean, you know, they're starting a lot of stuff in Canada actually, and it's like if you actually look really deep into the list of things that they can't have that they're trying to get past up there, it's scary because I mean we're not, you know, yeah, it's Canada, but it's still North America. And it's like the more and more you see stuff getting banned, it's like you got to get involved in that because it could potentially get to a point where we're not allowed to own them at all.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I would cry. If I didn't own reptiles, I'd be so disappointed.
So that's a leechie on your head. Tell us about this. This is a male, correct?
So yeah, this is a male. This is a just a high colored mix. So he has some good amount of pinks on his head and stuff like that. He's actually the start of my taffy line, I'm calling it. So I have 2 lines I'm working with right now that I named. One is called the Yeah Buddy line after Pauly D. If you ever saw,
yeah, okay.
So one's called the Yeah Buddy line, which is a GT locality based high color. Oh, sorry, he just hit into the phone.
No, that's cool.
So it's majority GT based with some high color in it, and it also has potential to throw out a visual melanistic in there as well.
One of the guys in chat just said, I just thought that was just a camo hat. This whole time he did.
I'm not gonna lie. When we were talking before we started streaming, so did I.
At first, yeah.
And I have a question about breeding Lychees. So I know
Yeah.
when you breed crested geckos, it doesn't matter. Like there's no hets because it's all completely random. Is it like that with Lychees as well?
So with cresteds, that is actually don't mean to be like a D head, but that is wrong actually. Right now with the exanthic gene, you could have heterozygous exanthics. So yeah, you could have heterozygous exanthics. So basically, they look like a normal crested gecko, but they're heterozygous. So that means they're just carrying the gene for exanthic.
Yes.
If you breed 2 of those together, then you could possibly get a visual. But then you also have a possibility of getting just another normal looking one that's heterozygous for exanthic.
So
It'd just be a process.
So with the Lychees,
before the exanthic, though. Sorry, I didn't mean to like.
No, you're good.
Crested geckos, but before the exanthic, like, I know that there was like different like traits that the offspring would.
So yeah,
from
there's
the parents,
obviously still those traits.
But they weren't.
Yeah. So those aren't really genetic. You could line.
Right.
So you could. Okay, so this is how the effed up Society of Geckos works.
This is what I wanted to get into. This is what.
okay, let me put this down. Let me put this guy away real quick so I can explain all this, because there's a lot of misconception in this hobby as a whole.
Yes.
So in the just gecko hobby and the New Caledonian species, a lot of people out there use the term line breeding.
Okay.
Which is just a nicer word for the actual word that we all hate, inbreeding.
Okay. Yeah.
So, basically, not putting anyone specifically on the spot, but I mean, there's many breeders out there who say they line breed for more Dalmatian spots, or they line breed for the tricolor gene, basically, or trait more likely. Wouldn't say it's a gene; I would say it's a trait. So they basically just keep taking those animals. When you breed two animals, so basically you're taking an offspring that looks like both of the parents, and you're breeding it back to one of the parents, because the gene pool is both so identical. The chances of you getting more of those is very high.
Right, which makes sense.
Which makes total sense. And is it so? I know your next question is going to be: is it safe? Yes. I'd say it is to a point. Is it ethical to do when we have so many in the hobby? Probably not. But I mean, but does it bring actual harm to the animals? I would say no, because the whole thing is they come from such a small island.
Right.
Like, their island, people don't understand. Besides Grand Terraire, which is the main island, there's a bunch of little islands sporadically throughout New Caledonia,
and that's where you
that are not very big.
And that's where you get like the New Ana, New Ami, like all
the
that.
New Anas, the New Amis,
those are all from the smaller islands.
Yes, so New Ana, New Ami, Moro, Pina Island, Duana. Then you got Kanawha. You got I'm missing a bunch. Banes. Yeah. So your Banes, yeah. So all those basically come from all your little surrounding islands, and then your main island is where you got the big boys. You got the big boys like this, which come from the main part island. This is a Yate. This is a bubble line Yate. So these are technically the biggest geckos in the trade right now. These guys.
So
that is like
big.
the
biggest gecko I've ever seen in my life.
This one, so he's still not fully grown. He's around 3 years old. He's probably like 320 grams at the moment. So he's gonna max out probably somewhere a little over 400 grams. So he's still got some growing to do, but these guys are technically the biggest. Oh God, he got his freaking nail caught in his mouth. Sometimes
he went from
no.
like
What
really
happens
chill
is
to really
sometimes
pissed
they
quick.
walk. Sometimes when they walk, they're just hands, like, because when they pick up their hands, their nails come back, like basically like their whole like fingers, like they're not, but like they're jointed backwards. So as they pick up, their fingers come backwards, and sometimes when they're walking, it just catches them in the mouth.
Yeah.
So he wasn't trying to bite me. He was just trying to get his finger out of his mouth.
It totally looked like he was trying to bite.
And so like these two now, because this is a different one than you had out earlier. So like these seem really calm, but like when you have like 200 of them, like they're not all that calm, are they?
Yes, they are.
See, so
Lychees as a whole are very calm. Okay. Like, I mean, I do have the occasional one that's not very nice, but I mean, no, they're all pretty chill like this. I could take any of them out and pretty much kill them. I wouldn't even say like I do have like one. So the ones that I'm like talking about that aren't very nice are more cage defensive. I don't like to use the words cage aggressive.
Because you hear about them being territorial and stuff.
Yeah,
like that
so
quite
definitely they definitely can be, but I mean, as a whole, I mean, no, they're all very chill. Honestly, it's a misconception. A lot of the like the people who focus on like cresteds or like gargoyles, they just use that as like a term, like, you know what I mean, just as like a selling point for you to buy theirs instead of buying something that's more expensive or whatever. And that's what they use. They pretty much just use that for to just get you to basically buy their thing.
Gotcha.
When it's literally just a huge misconception. I mean, yeah, like the ones that I'm saying that are cage defensive, I could go in the cage with a glove or whatever, just pull them out, and once they're out, they're pretty much fine.
It's just they're
territorial. It's just think about it this way. You know what I mean? You're sleeping in bed. Do you want someone ripping your covers off your bed as you're sleeping on a Saturday evening?
I think in a video we actually talked about that with tarantulas, and it's like when people talk about like them being aggressive or defensive or whatever, and I'm like, well, yeah, because you're ripping the roof off of this.
Yeah, they just don't know better.
And just sticking your hand into its living room, you know. So I get it. I get it. You hear about them like. I don't know if they call it barking or growling or.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah. So, all right. I mean, like, watch. So he's probably not even going to do it because he's such a calm animal, this guy. But, like, I mean, if you grab him, like this, basically, like, I'm not even holding him tight, but, like, I don't know. Sometimes when you just do this, basically just grab him right behind the head for, like, a quick second, they'll usually just go. Okay. And but I mean, he's so calm that he's not even gonna do it. But I wasn't holding him tight. Some people already know in the comments are gonna be like, "Oh, you're strangling him." When I go into the cages, basically to grab the ones that are more cage defensive, I just do that. You grab them just like a snake, real loosely, right behind the head, and you just get their nails to come off the cork bark or whatever they're on, and once you get them right on their hand, they'll stop barking and they won't even try to bite you. It's so weird. Like, you know what I mean? You just were grabbing them, and then you put them on your hand, and they're not trying to bite you.
Yeah.
So once they realize you're not going to...
And we haven't really handled ours a whole lot yet, because we're trying to let it settle in.
A little stressed out, you can tell.
But I was texting you about, about her eating or whatever, so that's good.
Yeah, so it's like...
We know she honestly, is now.
If you don't even see poop... I've had instances, if you don't even see poop for the first month... Like, they could go such a long time without eating. As long as they're hydrated, they could go with food for a very long time.
Okay.
They could go without.
We're seeing poop in the cage now. I've seen a couple different spots. So
yeah. So as long as you're seeing once you acquire your baby Lychees, to anyone out there, once you acquire it, I mean, if you're not seeing poop for the first couple weeks, don't be shocked, because they do take a while to adjust to it, like a whole new setup. Like, I mean, I have instances where I have to do cage upgrades. And, like, I'm not seeing poop for a while. And I'm like, you know what I mean? And, like, they're in the same living space. It just is what it is. They don't like a change of sceneries. Like, even, like, with my adults, when I do clean cages, like, my pairs, I try to leave everything the same. Like, if they notice, like, one or two little things are different, you may see some fighting then. It's just it is what it is, because they like their house, basically. They like familiarity.
That makes sense.
Which is weird, because when you read about like
because like when in the wild they'll like live in the same cork hollow for like years.
Yeah, but when you talk about like reptile enrichment, one of the things people always say is they're like, oh, well, change up their cages. You know what I mean? And then it's like make them explore. But I don't. It doesn't seem like with these guys that's as important, because like you said, in the wild they're just chilling in one place, whereas like with our water monitor, like we're trying to throw new stuff at him all the time for him to like stay, mentally stimulated or whatever. Yeah.
It's like what also sucks about these guys too, is like you can have a pair together for like 20 years, and just you'll wake up one day and they're like fighting, like they're just so bipolar.
I was actually reading about that today, because before this I started reading a little bit about like breeding Lychees and breeding Cresties and whatever, which I always assumed breeding Cresties was like like if you wanted to get into breeding reptiles, that's how you start.
So breeding Crestids is like breeding mice.
Yeah.
It's kind of literally breeding mice. You throw them together and they're gonna give you babies.
Yeah, that's kind of what I gathered too.
With Lychees, I wouldn't say it is for everyone, even though it's not as hard as a lot of the breeders out there make it seem to be. And that's another selling tactic for them. They're so expensive because they're very hard to breed. They kill each other, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, as long as you have half a brain and you know what to look for,
well, because they're gonna let you know if they aren't gonna be compatible.
So yeah, obviously, if they're not compatible, you're gonna hear stuff. You're gonna see bite marks on the necks. But when you even see pretty bad wounds, that's not necessarily mean to break them up right away. I've done instances where I've done that, and I've been told by a lot of other breeders, like, honestly, just let them figure it out. As long as, like, if you see like a huge bite mark and they're like not like basically like pairing up, like sleeping in the same cork hollow anymore, that's how you know they broke their bond, basically.
Right.
But if they're still look like in that they're like, you know what I mean, eating with each other, still sleeping in the same cork hollow, whatever, that still means they're bonded. It's just they had a bad night, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why it's not for the faint of heart breeding these guys, because it's like, see, any first newcomer that started breeding Lychees would think, oh, automatically to separate them, and see, by doing that, like, that might be the only time they ever fight, basically, like in their whole, like, forever, basically.
I'm gonna make a note of this.
But see, a lot of instances, like, people then at that point will separate them, and sometimes it's even hard to pair them back up then once you separate them.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a lot of, you know what I mean? It's a lot of just knowing what to look for.
Right.
And
which comes from experience, or in your case, I mean,
so,
learning
yeah, so
from
like
other people.
I've been breeding Lychees now for 5 years, and I'm just at the point where I'm starting to really understand them.
Wow, that's crazy.
Sorry, I had to make a note of that. You don't separate them if they initially fight, because I've never bred geckos before, and I think it'd be fun.
Yeah. So yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Lychees are definitely a future thing to definitely look into. I mean, they're such a cool species because,
Awesome.
I mean, for geckos, I'd say they're probably one of the smartest, definitely up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, our
I'm
crested
def-
gecko, he's not the most intelligent animal we have by any means.
No, I'd say Lychees like are definitely, you see what I mean? Like, once they know you're not gonna hurt them, like,
They
look,
seem
like,
pretty chill. Like
he's been chilling on my hat for probably a good 5 minutes,
yeah,
like,
the
just
other
sitting there.
one was there for a pretty good amount of time too.
Yeah, and you see what I mean? Like, I haven't taken these geckos out in probably a good couple months, like, really taking them out to, like, handle them, and I mean, they just sit there basically.
Dude, I cannot imagine. So, okay, this is just kind of like a random question because I'm curious.
Yeah, no, shoot it.
How much, like, Repashy or Pangea or whatever you use, like, how much of that do you go through on,
So,
like, a
about
weekly basis, monthly basis, like, whatever? I'm just curious.
So yeah, no. So I buy 2 10-pound bags probably every, like, 4 months.
Okay, so that's not that. I mean, that's not that bad.
So
I mean, that's
yeah,
a lot.
so
That's a lot because, like,
so I mean, that's like, so basically I'm spending about like $450 like every 4 months. So basically about, like, I don't know, like $1,500 in food every year, like on Pangea and stuff. But then I do offer pinkies and stuff to, like, a lot of my grow outs and a lot of my adults.
Wait, like
Probably
pinky
like
mice?
once every like 2 to 3 weeks. What?
Like pinky mice? Like little
Yeah,
mice?
pinky mice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
pinky mice. Just to give them a little bit of a variety, because so what I do, a trick I do is so I feed about 3 to 4 times a week. So I'm like, unlike a lot of other people, the whole thing is with having such a big collection like this, you get a shitload of fruit flies, like a shitload. And so what I do to keep the numbers down actually is just, a lot of people just overfeed these guys. They look and they're like, "Oh my god, it's a giant gecko," right? Like,
and
oh,
so
it
it needs a
to
lot
eat
of
so
food,
much.
right?
But, like, realistically, their stomach is only that big.
Well, and I think that that's becoming something that you see a lot in the reptile hobby in general, because if you look at, like, a snake, for example, I mean, that's one of the most fun things that snake owners would say about keeping a snake is watching them eat. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
and it is. It's fascinating to watch the
But
way they
I
open
mean,
their jaw.
realistically, in the wild, they're only going to eat like once every like 3, 4, 5, 6 months, probably.
Yeah,
We used to know
adult.
somebody that had an adult berm, and he went deer hunting each year, and he fed it like 2 deer a year, and that was all he did was feed it
That's
one
sick.
deer like every 6 months, and then it
That's
stayed
sick.
nice and fat.
So I have 2 berms, and I feed them like every 2 months. I have 2 berms that were rescues. That I rescued a couple months back, and that's what I do. I give them like just like the granite that I have. She's like 11 foot, and I feed her like a little like piglet, like that's like, you know what I mean, like 5 pounds.
Right.
I feed her that like once every like 2-3 months basically.
Yeah.
That's all, you know what I mean? It's a more natural setting, because if you're feeding them like every week, every 2 weeks, like what a lot of pet stores say to do, you're just gonna get a fat, unhealthy, overweight snake.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I think as babies, like I can understand if you have babies feeding them every like week or two, but I think
For sure,
as
because
adults, and then if you're breeding a female, I understand trying to get them, get some extra.
yeah,
weight
no,
on them.
absolutely.
But yeah, just as a regular feeding schedule, like there's just, I don't know. I just don't think that there's as much of a point in, trying to feed them weekly. Because it's one of those things you just see a lot in the hobby with a lot of different animals, and it's not just snakes. I mean, they're fun to feed. It's fun to watch them eat. That's that's one of my favorite parts about keeping tarantulas. I'm not gonna lie, is watching them eat. So, but we probably feed our tarantulas every week, but like I'll drop like 1 cricket in there instead of dropping like 3 or 4 or like a big roach or something like that.
So what I was going back to that then, basically, because I only feed 3 to 4 times a week, like a lot of my geckos, like I'll feed all the baby hatchling stuff, the gargs, crested, shahuas, lychees. I'll feed them a water bottle cap. And I mean, I'll literally put a drop in each one of the water bottle caps, but I'll do that 3 to 4 times a week. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, a drop, like basically that inner ring. It'll get up to that inner ring, and that's it. And they'll finish. Basically, everything will finish that. Even the cresteds, they'll pretty much finish all of that. And with the adults, like I give them like if you ever like basically for like detergent for the wash, like those caps, those like bigger size caps.
Yeah,
I do that, but I only fill it up like probably halfway, or like literally up to like the first rim basically, and that's what the adults get. But I do that 3 to 4 times a week, just because with that I know at least they're gonna finish it, and I'm not gonna have Pangea stagnate and right there in the cage, and the fruit flies are just gonna lay larvae in it. Like I know they're at least gonna finish it, and there's going to be nothing for the fruit flies to basically eat and breed and have babies on.
Yeah, I mean, and we were having issues with not fruit flies, but fungus gnats in a lot of our more moisture dependent tarantula species. In their cages, we were getting a lot of the fungus gnats. And that's when we started switching everything over to bioactive, but we don't have 900 animals. So, like, I mean, it's a little bit easier. But, I mean, we even have our Cresties even bioactive now, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind that so much. I would try and catch some fruit flies and start a colony, because I want a jumping spider really badly, and it's so much easier to go catch one here than spend probably about $75 in total to buy one and shipping.
Just get a bunch of Pangea. Literally, just like leave like a cap out on your counter, and I swear to God, you'll have as many as you'd like.
Okay, because all the ones here, for some reason, they just don't get as big as the ones that you find.
They're like the little zebra jumpers.
Like the little zebra jumpers, yeah. Because that's just what lives here. Because they can like survive in the cold better than all the other ones that live more in like the warmer
like more
environments.
down in like warmer.
Yeah, and like
One question: where are you guys from again? I forgot.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
We're about 45 minutes north of the city.
Yeah.
Of what city you said?
Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta, Georgia. Oh,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
awesome.
we're if we go south, we're about 45 minutes from Atlanta, and then if we go north, we're about 45 minutes from like the North Georgia mountains.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
it's awesome. So we can go up to the mountains and hike and camp or whatever, or we can
Oh,
go
that's
down to the
dope.
city and do, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, you guys actually have that species in your state, the alligator snapping turtle. That was going, that won the threatened list yesterday, right, or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that? That's like my favorite.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think about these things all the time.
Every time we go to the Atlanta Zoo, they've got a giant alligator snapping turtle, like the biggest one I've ever seen in my life. He's been there for probably like 10 years now. He's been there forever.
At the zoo?
At the zoo, yeah. They've had that same one for such a long time, and he's just always my favorite.
Yeah, I have a giant male. He's probably like $180. I have a pond. I have a trio of a male and two females, and so I was in class, and one of my buddies hit me up and was like, "Hey, you better be saving a lot of those alligator snapper babies next year." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, just type into Google alligator snapping turtle. I typed it in, and like I just saw all these reports. The alligator snapping turtle was put on the threatened list or the endangered list. I don't really know, but
threatened list. I don't think they're considered endangered yet, but I think that they are. Yeah, on the threatened.
Yeah,
list.
so he's like, you better start stacking up on them. He's like, people are gonna be wanting them sooner than later. I was like,
yeah, well,
it's like I don't know about that, but I was like,
I mean, I don't know. Like the way that the hobby shifts, and you see different species go
like
up
incline,
and down.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that's constant are bearded dragons and ball pythons, because like anytime you go to an expo, it's just like there's tons. You see ball pythons everywhere. You see beardies everywhere.
I mean, yes, you could say that, but then it's like on the other hand, it's like it's because the market is very diluted with that stuff.
It is. There's a ton of it.
I mean, because it's like if you don't have morphs, I mean, realistically, like wholesaling off normals, I mean, you could buy normal ball pythons probably for like $5 wholesale.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you could buy wholesale beardy babies probably for like 10.
You can still go to an expo and buy a single ball python for $10. Like even now, like not even buying like a wholesale, like a lot or a group for like a pet store. I think you can still get them for $10 or $20 at an expo.
That's what I mean. Yeah. That's why I'm like saying, yeah, I remember, I had a buddy years ago when ball pythons were still there wasn't like that many morphs out. Remember he got lucky at a show and I think he paid like $5 or $10 for like 8 ball pythons. And I remember he brought them home and he sold them all for like $150 a piece or something like that. It was like,
yeah, it's crazy.
He was like, I remember he was like, bro, he's like, you won't even believe what I got. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I got like 10 normal ball pythons for like, he was like $10 and I was like $10 a piece. And I was like, holy crud. Like that was like a whole lot of money to me back then.
Well,
now it's like,
what reptile shows do you go to and when are they next? Because I need to know these things.
I still vend the White Plains Reptile Show in New York City, but unfortunately that convention center was turned into a COVID hospital, and now it's actually it's still a hospital, but as well as an administration to give out the vaccine. And also, unfortunately, the guy who runs it had some surgery done, and he's been out of commission now for quite a while. So we're not really too sure the next time he's actually going to be he's going to be able to actually have the expo up and running again. So as of right now, I'm doing a couple PA shows. There's a show in Lebanon in December. I possibly might do. I'm just seeing how my schedule's looking right now with schooling, so I'm not too sure. I think that's the week of finals. That show is, so I'm not really sure if I'm going to be going to it. But I just did a show in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, on October, I think October, like it was the Saturday before Halloween. I don't remember that day. I think it was like the 24th, or like the 23rd or something like that. So I did that show. That was my first show I did in probably like 2 years actually since COVID all started.
Yeah, because they weren't having them for a long time.
Yeah, they weren't having them for a while, but then my whole thing was I was waiting on like my sales tax permits and stuff to come in, so it was like so because I do have one for New York, because I mean New Jersey has like no reptile shows. New Jersey has zilch, like zero reptile shows. There's like one or two pet expos a year, but other than the pet expos, I mean we have nothing. So it's like it's just because every one that like does reptiles, even in Jersey, it's like there isn't just like a huge crowd of people in Jersey that's like into these things. So it's like we just go to New York basically.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We're pretty fortunate that we went to a show, I don't know, like a month and a half ago ish, something like that, and then on the 20th we're going to two in the same day.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, it's like with me right now. With me, it's like there isn't even a lot of New York shows going on just because the COVID cases are like so high there and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's like it's not even that it's so high. It's just the point that it's like the transmission rate of COVID in New York City is very high. So it's like a lot of convention centers just don't want to be responsible for holding a stupid reptile show.
Exactly.
And basically having a bunch of people getting COVID and then they're responsible for it, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, and I get that, because it's not just reptile shows. I think that in general, like people are definitely trying to, be safe. But to your point, yeah, to them it's just a reptile show, so like it's not, it's not that big of a deal to them. But I'm going to say hi to some of the people in chat. We got some people that just came in here. So Chaotic Exotic, what's up? I'm assuming that is Miss Dane. Welcome. Paradox is one of your friends, right? From school? Yeah. What's up? And 91 Lose It, that's Alex. What's up, guys? Welcome. If you guys have any questions for Kyle, feel free to drop them in the chat. I know we've been kind of talking, and I see you guys are talking with each other in the chat, but if you guys have questions for him, feel free to blast him in there, and we'll go ahead and pass it along for you. So let's get into you mentioned your schedule. You don't know if you'll be able to vend because of finals and stuff. Let's get into school a little bit here. So tell everybody what you're going to school for, and what made you decide to do that, and
so
what that's like. Because I think there's probably a lot of people who have that idea in their head, but aren't really sure exactly, what it takes and, all of that. So
going back to it, thankfully I was a multi-sport athlete in high school, so I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to go to a small school where I live. I had some bigger offers to go to other schools, and once COVID hit, I took basically the closest choice, but the school that was offering the most money. But they did, so I went to Caldwell University, which is about 15 minutes from my house, and they do offer a biology / pre-vet program there. So I am a biology / pre-vet major at the moment, and it's definitely not for everyone.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone. And it's a very, very tough, intense courses you have to take to get through
well, I mean,
this degree.
It's basically pre-med. I mean, you're basically going to medical school. It's just
Yes.
for
Yeah, for
animals.
sure.
Yeah.
So
For
somebody in
sure.
the chat, AJ AA Exotics, he wants to know what your favorite reptile is.
My favorite reptile.
I know
I don't know.
that's like such a loaded.
vague question.
It's a
Yeah,
that is a loaded question. And I don't know,
I'd say-
AJ, can you specify? Do you mean like what's his favorite one he owns, or
like-
what's his
like,
favorite
yeah.
one he breeds, or like if he could own any reptile in the world, what would it be? Because like I know I have one of those.
Yeah, I have one of those for sure. I mean,
Yeah. I think everybody
legal to
who's
own,
into
but,
exotics
like-
has at least one. And whether it's an exotic mammal, reptile, whatever, they're like, if I could just own one, I want this one.
I want a fennec fox like more than anything else.
a what fox?
It's literally a fox that stays, what is it, like 4 or 5 pounds? It's like a dwarf fox with these big ears, and they're from the Sahara in Africa, but they're small enough that they could live in.
Oh,
like,
I've seen though. They have like really
They have
big, like
really big
satellite
ears, yeah.
looking eels.
Yeah,
Ears.
yeah.
I've seen those
Dude,
before.
they're like, they don't even look real, man. They look like Pokemon.
Yeah, they literally do.
Okay, here's a good question. How old should Lychees be before you cohabitate them? This one's from Clint Martin. Clint, I think I saw you say something earlier. Welcome. Appreciate you coming in here.
So with Lychees, their age requirement, I would say at the least probably around 2.5, 3 years old.
That's
before
kinda
you
what
really
I've-
pair them up.
That's what I've read, but
Yeah, like 2.5, 3 years. They're pretty much at their full size around 5 years old.
okay.
But like any reptile, they continuously grow for their whole life, and these guys are very long-lived reptiles. Honestly, for lizards, they're probably up there as one of the longest-lived lizards. These guys could go for 40, 50, we don't even know how long years, actually. I have, in my own collection, I have a fields collected animal from 1996 or 1995. I don't know off the top of my head. But she was collected as an adult from Frank Fast, who was one of the original guys who went to New Caledonia and actually collected these guys. And when they were rediscovered in 1988 or 1989, I'm not too sure off the top of my head when they were rediscovered. But once they were rediscovered, they basically, a whole crew of them between I'm trying to think. Felipe de Valoge, Frank Fast, and Bobo. I think Bobo Friedel, Michael Troger, Willie Henkley. There was a whole group of them that all went to the islands and they started collecting these guys. But I was fortunate enough because Frank Fast and Felipe de Valoge are both in the States here, and I was able enough to acquire one of the original fields collected new Amis from Steve at Leapin' Lychees. And she's still giving me eggs to this day. She's probably in her 30s, possibly 40s, because she was fields collected as an adult. But think about it: if it takes us 3 to 4 years basically in captivity to get them that like adult size,
Right.
how long does it really take them in the wild then? Because they're not getting fed on they're not getting fed on a normal basis. So it's like it probably takes them honestly in the wild like 6 to 10 years to get sexually mature.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about. Just because there's so many reptiles that it's like you can start breeding them almost within a year. Some of them. So to think
like
about,
a lot.
And
actually,
that's one of the things too. I think that people who don't always understand that with the Lychees, it's like, oh, I want to get these and I want to try to breed them, and it's like you can invest in a bunch of babies, which is what most people would do because it's cheaper, and they don't even realize that they're gonna have to sit on those for 3 years before they can even start trying to breed them.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's a huge investment. Like you're lucky that you get to work for geckos.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to think about it. It's like, I mean, you could raise all 3 of those up, and I mean, you could raise all those babies up, and they may not even get along after all those years.
Right. Exactly. That's
okay.
Crazy.
So AJ came back and he said, "What's your favorite reptile that you've owned? And if you could have any reptile, what would it be?"
Okay, so my favorite reptile that I can't own just because it's not legal would have to be a Komodo dragon. I love Komodo dragons; they're awesome.
That's
Just
why we
move to
got. That's
Colorado.
why we got a water monitor. We were like, this
Yeah.
is about as close as we could get.
Yeah, legally.
Yeah.
And if my most favorite animal that I currently own, his name is King Juju. He is my adult male melanistic Kogus. He is a Troger line, and he is basically a giant black lychee. He's about 350 grams,
Wow.
and he's just an absolute brute. So he's way bigger than the one on my head, and he's just a beast.
He's just solid black.
He's solid black. So this is actually
So
his one
are those
offspring.
are the solid black lychees worth more than the others the same way that the solid black cresties are?
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
That makes
so
sense.
this is King Juju's oldest daughter that I currently have. She's about 50 to 60 grams. I mean, you could just see the difference. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a normal lychee. This is a melanistic.
Please tell me her name is Princess Juju, just to like fit the theme.
So actually, no, she does. She doesn't even have. She doesn't even have a name.
Yeah.
So her mom's name is Malibu, and her dad's name is King Juju, and then her oldest brother's name is Prince Blackie.
Okay, well, for the theme there, might as well name it Princess Juju.
Princess Juju. All right, sounds good. I'll write that on her tub afterwards.
Thank
Um,
you.
But so yeah, so these mels, right now they're starting at around $5,000,
Okay. That's
and
about what I figured.
yeah, so they start at around $5,000 as babies right out of the egg, and they
Right.
go up from there. This one specifically, she's actually fired down, so she's not even fully fired up. So when she's
she's darker than that. Like if she's
yeah,
fired
so
up.
when she's fired up, she's like, I mean, like pure black. Like, I mean, these spots that you see, you can't even see them when she's fully fired up. I've talked to a couple breeders out there, and they say she may be one of the blackest, darkest melanistics actually in the world.
Wow.
So with the melanistics, they're very weird. So they hatch out like a dark brown, blackish color as babies right out of the egg. That's how you're able to distinguish a melanistic from a normal. A normal hatches out this light color, like your baby, and when they hatch out, they look like this right out of the egg.
Wow. Okay.
So that's how you're able to tell the difference. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, like why isn't my super dark morph a melanistic?" It's because dark morphs that you see out there, like this guy, when he's fired up, he's like a real dark brown, almost black color as well. But he didn't hatch black. He hatched out that
gray.
he hatched out that normal gray looking color.
Yeah.
These guys, you could tell a visual melanistic if it hatches black. If it hatches black, it's a visual melanistic.
So okay, so those hatch out and they're black, and they basically do they get darker as they get older?
So this is the cool thing about them. I was right about to get into it. At around 20 grams, so once they're about like 2 to 3 months old, they actually go super light. They go super light, like a gray color, like a super light gray color.
Okay.
And they're always that color until they're around like a year old and like maybe like 120, 150 grams. And then they redarken back up.
That's wow. Okay.
But see why this one is so interesting? Because it never went light.
Huh. And that's
this is its light stage then.
So that I guess that's why. So that's why the breeders are saying that's one of the darkest ones that they've ever seen, because it just
yes, because yeah, it never went through its light stage. I mean, it's still a possibility. I mean, you know, I mean, maybe it's just a late
a late
bloomer. But
yeah,
see, the whole
right?
thing is with the melanistics, we really didn't realize it's a simple recessive trait until a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So just like the Xanthic cresties, I'm just gonna put her away because she's just moving around a bunch. I'm trying to talk. With the Xanthic cresties, it's a simple recessive, so it's heterozygous. So you could have a normal looking lychee that's het for basically the black gene.
Okay.
So what a lot of people are starting to do right now is take these black geckos and add them to the high color lines. So you will take a super pink lychee. So you take a super pink lychee, breed it to one of these black geckos. You'll get all visual pink geckos that are het for the black gene, basically.
Gotcha.
You got to take those geckos, raise them up, and you line breed them.
Right.
And then you'll get basically a black gecko with a bunch of color.
That's the world I want to live in.
I got dibs on the first babies.
So that's what happens.
Because lychees don't, other than the Xanthics, like it's not really like a morph thing. It's mostly a locale thing.
Yes. So besides the melanistics, there's really no other quote unquote like morphs out there.
Right.
So actually, no, I lied. Actually, there is actually albino lychees.
Okay.
So there's a guy right now who like proved it out in like I don't even know. He's in like Europe or something. So I mean, if there is a real hardhead lychee guy in the chat right now, he may prove me wrong. But I'm pretty sure. So he's very secretive. This guy.
But those are now. So Maddox just looked him up, and they're like just solid white.
So okay, no, so I know exactly what that is. That's a hypomelanistic.
Oh no, it's this one, this yellow one with the red eyes.
So yes,
yeah.
So
AJ AA Exotics just asked if they're fully white ones. So the answer to your question is yes. The hypomelanistic is solid white.
So I have a couple buddies who have hypomelanistics. I have a buddy who actually produced one from wild caught parents. His parents are 1994 field collected animals from Frankfast, and they produced a white animal. Two normal looking green pink lychees produced a pure white. Like, I mean, it's the whitest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's a pure white. It literally looks like bird shit. Like, it's a pure white gecko. Like, completely pure white.
So
its eyes are normal looking.
So it's got to be some sort of a recessive gene then that they...
That's what we thought. So he's actually... The only way for him, unfortunately, to figure it out is if he were to breed it back to the siblings or to breed it back to the father, basically.
Yeah.
So that would be the only way for him to really figure it out, because it's like one of the only ones in the world, basically.
Yeah. So AJ's saying now, he's like, I guess I'm going to try to get one so I can match it to Mozzarella. Mozzarella is his blue-eyed leucistic ball python.
Oh my god!
That will not end well. One of them will eat the other, and
he didn't mean match it like that. He just meant like have another solid white animal.
So, which is really interesting about that animal, he's already, as we're talking, he's already gone now a couple years of breeding it. He kept that project under the wraps from a lot of the community for a long time, because right now in the world we only know of probably there's probably less than 20. Like, there's probably closer to 10, but it's less than 20 of these hypomelanistics out there.
Yeah.
And you know what is it? So I've fortunately been able to hold 3 of them, and since I've known about them, I've been able to hold 3 of them, and all 3 of them feel very weird compared to normal lychees. They feel like sandpaper, actually.
Huh.
It's like super weird. So it's like after I felt the first one from my friend who produced the one from the wild caught parents, I had multiple other people ask me like, "Oh, is mine a hypo? Like, did I produce a hypo or something like that?" Like, because I had a couple people come to me and and ask like, "Hey, like I produced this a couple years ago, and like it's still really white looking. Like, do you know if it's possibly like a hypo or something? Like, you check it out for me." And as soon as I was able to feel it, like I all made a connection with all of them. I'm like, they all feel like sandpaper, which is super weird.
That's
Like
really like that. That's like you wouldn't think that the color would change, but it's
so
almost like
what's really funny about like the melanistics, their scales are so fine next to each other that they feel like velvet actually.
okay. And then the
So I think
hypomelanistics are the
so,
opposite.
so it's like they have more of like exoderms.
Okay.
You know what exoderms are, like on a Gila monster?
Yeah.
Like
Uh-huh.
so they have like exoderms, like so they have more of like a hexaderm scale pattern, whereas the melanistics, the visual black ones, have like very fine close scales, which
That's
I've
so
noticed.
weird.
But
Yeah,
the
so it's like
normal Lychees
they're
don't.
literal opposites, which is so weird to me.
Well, which is also like really cool, and I think that
And
as
and
they
I
continue
was
to
the
breed them and find out more about them, we'll probably figure
and,
out
and it
why
was
one day.
funny because I was actually the only one of like multiple breeders that felt a bunch of these animals. I was the only one to pick up on that. I'm like, you guys didn't feel like they don't feel normal right away. Like I was
Yeah.
like, I was like, how does this 19-year-old kid that's been doing it for 5 years was able to pick up on it before any of these top breeders have been breeding for like 20 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so Clint had a question,
Yeah.
and he wants to know if they do genetic tests, if like breeders do genetic testing to validate genes in their breeding programs.
So funny he asked that.
I mean, I've heard of people doing it before, not with Lychees
Lychees,
specifically, but
So to get a gene test,
is that Clint Martin like from football?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
so to get genetic testing with gecko specifically, I think because their genes are a lot more complex, to get like a gene test would cost around like a couple $1,000s. I don't know the exact number off my head. Someone told me it before, but it's a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, and he it started out his question started out with, "I know it's probably cost prohibitive," was the first thing
And
he
you
said.
and you want to know some? Eventually down the line, I'm definitely gonna do that with a lot of my pure localities because I'm very curious. Even though I know I got them from like the best guy out there, Steve at Leap and Leeches. Even though I know I got them from the best guy in the world, and the guy who he basically has now his whole collection is the original guy who went and collected them off the island. And out of all the guys who really collected them, like Frank was the one that really kept good track of everything. And it was very anal compared to the other guys collecting them. Like the other guys that were collecting them were basically just like, "Oh, a Lychee's a Lychee." Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Frank and Michael Troger. Michael Troger was the one for collecting the Mount Kogus, and he was the one that was able to actually prove out the melanistic gene.
Okay, gotcha.
But Frank Fast was the real anal guy who basically was like, "Oh, I have to keep everything separate because it's going to matter eventually one day."
Okay, cool.
And he kept very good notes of where it came from and where he exactly pinpointed collected it.
Huh. Well, I was listening to a podcast actually, and they were the guy who was in the interview was talking about how breeders are stepping up their game, I guess, in the record keeping. And I can't remember who the breeder was he was talking about, but he's like, if you go on this website and you go to order one of the babies from him, he's got pictures of the parents, the grandparents, the great grandparents. So it's like, you know exactly what your baby is going to look like as it goes.
Is it a gecko guy?
I don't think it was a gecko guy, but it could have been. a gecko guy. I don't
'Cause
know.
I know one guy who works with Chihuahuas right now who's very on top of that. Like he'll literally show you like the third cousin,
Yeah,
like on the grandma side.
right.
Like I'm like, how do you even know that? Like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
but
I
you
mean,
know, I mean, if they're all coming from animals that were bred in your facility, then you would know that, obviously.
absolutely.
But I think that that's important for
Yeah, absolutely.
to track, especially if you've got, you know, I know like I think Nerd was one of the first places that I saw. New England Reptile
Where,
Distributors was one of the
yeah,
first places I
yeah,
saw.
Kevin
Yeah,
McKeerley.
Yep.
but everything you would see when he started selling, you know, his captive water monitors, it would say 5th generation, 6th generation, 4th generation, you know, whatever. And that was one of the first times I really saw that happening, I think. And now it
Yeah,
seems to
so
be
like
more
with the
common.
Lychees, like like with the Lychees, we have F1s, we have F2s, we have F3s, and we have a bunch of F4s, and we're even getting now to like F5s and F6s.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But see, right now in the hobby, what's very unfortunate is a lot of people are just really just like there's a lot of people out there, obviously, because we all got to start somewhere, just buying up all these mixes basically.
Mm-hmm.
In the next couple of years, we're definitely going to see a spike, I believe, in pure localities, just because it's going to get so diluted, just like how it happens in everything else. We're going to see a dilution with the basically the mutts.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't ever see Lychees falling below like $300, just because of the fact that you can't be an idiot basically to breed them. Like, so they do take some technique to actually breed them.
Yeah.
So that's like the thing. Like, and they don't lay a lot. They lay 2 eggs per clutch, and you're lucky
Exactly.
if you even get eggs You're lucky if you get eggs even in a season. You may not, like, they literally take sometimes years off, and where they just don't give eggs, which
Which is
sucks.
yeah, but that's, you know, you were talking earlier about like how people would say that's why they're so expensive because they're so hard to breed. But no,
Yeah,
why
no,
they're expensive is because they don't produce a lot of babies.
yeah, that's
You
that's
know.
that's definitely a big thing. I'd say that's honestly a bigger thing than actually the breeding part.
Yeah, I think they've been in the hobby long enough that the people that are breeding them have kind of dialed in how to do it. It's just they're not going to drop a clutch of 15 eggs at a time, 20 eggs at a
Yeah,
time. They're not
compared
even
to
dropping a clutch of 5 or 6 at a time.
yeah, and you're lucky if you even get a good egg in a clutch. Both of those
Exactly.
could be duds, and
Right.
then they may not lay for another 6 months, or that may be the only clutch in the season.
Exactly. No, I mean, and it's yeah. I get it. I understand. You know, I understand why they're still pricey. They're not, you know, 5 to 10 grand like they were, but at least
Yeah, I mean, some of them
for a
still
baby.
are.
I mean, you can buy a baby for, you know, you generally between 500 and $1,000, or you know, as
Yeah,
kind of
no, for sure.
average.
So going back to what I was saying, I think that's why we're definitely going to see an increase in, if you could prove it in the next couple of years, like you have a pure locality. If it's anything, like I mean, like strict pure bloodlines. Like I eventually think this genetic testing is going to come into play somewhere, especially with the bigger time breeders. If you could prove that you have a pure bloodline, like it's New Anna, New Ami, any of the pure localities that we have in the trade, um,
It'd be
definitely,
worth
I
the
think
investment at
it's
that
gonna
point.
be it's gonna be a lot more. I think the prices are definitely gonna increase. Like, I mean, you could buy right now. You could buy from like a very good breeder who does have like very good lineage, where they got their stuff from. You could buy a pure New Anna for like what I mean, $600 to $800 as a baby, and that's probably like the cheapest pure locality you could really get. And then they just go up from there with the pure locality stuff. Um, but I think that stuff is gonna like double or triple in the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah.
Like I just bought a pure Point of Minier for my buddy that this was a hookup. I just spent $5,000 on it for
Wow. A baby or like an adult?
a baby, like just out of the egg, like 2 weeks old.
Wow, that's
Jeez.
crazy. So I don't even remember what locale we got. Do you? Do you remember
So
what?
yeah, so that guy, I'm trying to think.
Because it said on the sticker that was on the deli cup it had like a GT next to it.
So okay, GTX. So so
Yeah.
that one is from that baby is from Abraham and Abigail.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's from Abraham and Abigail. So Abraham is a Moro by Anna. So Moro is one of the bigger island localities, and Anna is one of the smaller localities. He is a very light base animal, very light green base animal with a good amount of pink actually. And his girlfriend, Abigail, she is a Moro, so one of the bigger island localities with Yate actually. And I acquired both of those parents from Pangea, actually.
Okay.
I bought them years ago when Pangea actually had a decent amount of Lychees. I don't really know if they even still do, but I mean, I paid, I think 800. I basically paid like 1,600 for both of them as babies. Like, I mean, like tiny babies.
So
And they were like,
go ahead, sorry.
no, you're good. Go, bud.
So I've got kind of just like a random fun question.
Yeah.
Do you name all of your animals, and if so, how do you keep up with all of them? Because we named maybe
okay,
20 of our spiders, and I get lost.
So how I do it is I name the males of each group of my gargs. So I keep my gargs in the groups of 1.3s to 1.4s. So one male to 3 females to 4 females possibly. Depending on if the male is bigger, I'll give him a little bit more females. If he's smaller, I'll only give him like 2 or 3 females. And I only name the males basically, so I know like that's his group, that's his group, that's his group. And then with the Lychees, I name them as I have this like whole system how I name them basically. I try to name them with the first letter of who I acquired them from.
Oh, that's smart.
I like it.
So yeah, so like if I got them from someone named Anthony or something, I'll try to come up with a name that starts with an A for both of the parents, or just a specific thing, like trying to think. Oh, so my buddy Johnny, Johnny Rax actually. I have a 75 Yate, 75% Yate, 25% Point of Minier pair from him, and I named them Jacob and Jody. And then I have my pure Yate pair that's also from him, and their names are Jibba and Jubba. So they all start with a J, and the reason why I named them also had the BBA like at the end, like Jibba and Jubba. The BBA was because they're both Bubba line yates. So Bubba is a yate. He's one of the biggest animals, one of the biggest Lychees in the world. He's probably in the upper 400s, probably like low to, I don't even know. So when I used to work at Steve's facility at Leapin' Lychees, his biggest yate in his collection, his name is Bubba. He's a pure yate locality that was hatched in captivity. He was hatched in, I think, like 2008, and he's just a beast. He's just a pure beast of an animal. He is literally like my fingertip to like my elbow, and I mean I'm 6'1", so like I have like I'm
like
pretty big.
You're not a small human being.
No, I'm not a small human being, so like my arms are huge, and like he takes up my whole arm. Like it's unbelievable looking at the animal. So this is like, so Bubba is like this guy's like great grandfather, I believe. So it's just unbelievable seeing an animal that big. Like it's just like it belongs in a zoo. Like it's just unbelievable because like if you don't see it, like you would never believe it.
Well,
and the thing is,
geckos. You know, because you think of geckos as these little things like climbing up the wall, and so like when you see a gecko that large,
So like Steve, on the other hand, I've always asked Steve, like, have you ever weighed Bubba? And like he just doesn't want to know actually how much he weighs. Like it's just like
I don't even care. That's gonna be a mystery.
Yeah, it's just because one of those things. Because like we know he's definitely probably the biggest, like one of the biggest, if not the biggest gecko in the world. But we just don't want to. Like he just doesn't really care for what he weighs because he just knows he's the king of all kings.
Hey, at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? When you know you're
Yeah.
the king, it doesn't matter.
And I have videos of him literally on my camera roll of him trying. So he's a very cage defensive animal. And I've got bit by him twice, and his bites don't tickle. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. So
I mean, like the head on him. I mean, it's like that big. Like it's ridiculous.
I have no desire to get bit by any. I'd rather get bit by snakes than lizards.
That's like how big our bearded dragon head is. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
it's honestly probably as big. No, his head's probably bigger than a beardy's head. Honestly.
that is hard to think about, especially a gecko.
Yeah,
Like
he's
my dad
just a
said.
pure brute. He's just a brute.
When I think of a gecko, I think of like the 4 or 5 inch crested gecko.
Yeah, or like I mean, in Hawaii, I went to Hawaii when I was a little younger than him. And
Yeah, they have the Hawaiian, Mediterranean house geckos.
the
right?
house geckos all over the place, but they're they're like
Yeah.
this big. They're just tiny little things, and like that's what gecko
Well, don't you guys
always
have them in
meant.
Georgia too?
Yeah, I've seen them a couple of times. They're all over the place in Florida. We went on a vacation.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I know when I went to Florida, and I even stopped at a couple rest stops like in Georgia, like going to Florida. Me and my buddies, we stayed in Delray Beach for a week, and we were driving all throughout South Florida, and we also lived like a week out of our van, just fishing, like just hitting up spots, fishing, herping, like every night when we did our trip. And I remember every gas station we went to, we'd always catch geckos. Like, it was just our thing. Like, we would go right by the light, and there was like fucking 50 little house geckos. 50 little like house geckos like right under the light. And like the funny thing is, half of those geckos were literally not even like the common house gecko that's actually supposed to be in Florida. It was always like the Mediterranean ones, like all the invasive ones.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely see them here as you get closer to Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Since we're up closer to the mountains, we don't really see them up here on a regular basis. But as we're going to start kind of wrapping this up, but I want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody how they can find you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
I know you're on Instagram. I know you have a YouTube channel, but I just want to kind of give you an opportunity to kind of get your information out there for everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Yeah.
We have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, and we have a YouTube channel. For YouTube, it's just Garden State Exotics. Same thing for Facebook, Garden State Exotics. And for Instagram, it's Garden_State_Exotics. We're really trying to start a YouTube channel up and get it going on a regular basis. We have a couple videos up there, basically like how to ship geckos properly, how to when you get a baby lychee, like what do you do? That's like the biggest question we got.
I was browsing through it today.
There's none on YouTube besides my video of how to take care of baby lychees. Like, what do you do after you get one? And we're really just trying to put our name out there more and just try to help better people understand like these geckos in the hobby. I mean, I know I'm a really young kid, and I mean, no one really wants to listen to a young kid, I feel like, half of the time. But I've been fortunate enough to really talk with the biggest names out there that do this for a living. And I actually shadowed underneath them for years. And I mean, I'm just learning every day like everyone else. So, I mean, any little information I'm able to help for people, I feel like is a job well done on my part.
Yeah.
I feel you on that one.
Yeah.
about not listening to a kid.
Yeah.
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 Sure.
One more thing. Clint had a question. How do you keep
Go for
track
it.
of the breeding lineages over time?
So with me specifically, so I'm already a couple generations into my gargoyle lines. What I do is I just keep them as group numbers. So like once I have babies from group 7, like basically that's how I keep track. I knew all my original adults weren't related, and that's basically because I bought everything so many years ago. Like the chances of them even being related were very slim. just because there wasn't like, you know what I mean, a lot of stuff out there yet. So once I bought my first couple groups, I've been with the same groups now over time. I mean, now because I'm already now like 3-4 generations into it, basically at that point, a lot of now them aren't even related. So that's why now I'm basically able to work them back in. You know what I mean? Once you get like past 3 generations, they're technically not related. So that then I'm starting to work them back into like my lines, but so it's not direct like brother to sister, but eventually because I've had all the original same lines from years ago, it's basically I'd say it is technically line breeding, but it's not to the hardest extent possible at this point. So I really try not to do like direct siblings together, but because I only started with like probably like 40 to 50 original geckos. Now I'm at I don't even know. I'm at like 15 groups of like 1.4s of gargoyles. So it's like I produce probably like 300 babies every year, and I mean majority of those babies get sold to pet stores, and the best of the best either get raised up here and we keep them for breeders, or we end up selling them to customers who need like high-end breeders. At this point with the gargoyle gecko game, I just I don't know. As me personally, I don't like even I know a lot of my stuff. It may not look great. A lot of the times they develop color over time. Or they do have the genetics to pass on good visual stuff. But if I see it hatches out super bright, super orange, super red right out of the egg, most of the time they'll never hatch out red. They usually hatch out, if it's very nice looking, it'll hatch out orange, and that red develops from that orange over time just as they get older. And if I see a very orange animal, I'll keep it right off the bat. It gets holed back, and it stays here for at least 2 years, and then I'll figure it out. Then once it's ready to breed, if I'm either gonna sell it and take that money and basically put it more into more animals, or am I gonna just keep it and make more babies with it?
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, and I think that's a dilemma that a lot of breeders have. That's something that people who are thinking about getting into breeding that thought probably doesn't go through their mind, that when you hatch out certain babies and the way they look,
Yeah,
you gotta keep them. Like, you're not just gonna sell everything.
No, for sure. That's how I grew so quickly, I'd say. I mean, even though I've been doing it for 7 years, you can say, oh yeah, that's a long time. But I mean, to get where I am right now, I had a call incoming. To get where I am, the only way for me to actually do that was with holding back. I sacrificed probably 3 years of selling animals before I even started selling stuff.
Yeah.
So I held back for about 3 to 4 years, and I held back everything. I mean, everything I held back. And once I held back everything, that's how I really grew super quickly. Like even though I have like 500 geckos, probably out of my 500 geckos, probably close to 200 of that is Lychees.
Yeah.
Just because I held back like every baby Lychee possible for my first 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
And that's why I'm already up to like around a little over 30 pairs now.
That's crazy. Well, hey, you're getting your calls, and I see people calling you. We were kind of winding it down anyway, but I want to just first of all thank you for coming on.
No problem. Anytime, guys. Anytime. It was my pleasure.
It's been a lot of fun. To everybody out in the chat, we appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out and asking questions and
thank you guys. Thank you.
Learning about this. Maybe we'll have you on again at another time, and you can give us an update on how everything's going.
Yeah, for sure. In the middle of actually doing a huge reptile room renovation. So
Awesome.
When it's all done, and I mean, eventually maybe I'll fly you guys out here, and you guys could actually do a video right here at the facility.
Never been to New Jersey.
Let's do it. That'd be awesome. Yeah,
That'd be
that would
awesome.
be a lot of fun. I'd love to come do that.
That'd be amazing.
But for
Yeah,
everybody
for
out
sure.
there, again, it is Garden State Exotics. I will go back into the video and I will make sure that all of the links to your Instagram and Facebook and YouTube channel are all in the description so people can find you easier. We got our Lychee from him in case that wasn't made clear in the beginning of this stream.
Yeah.
And that's how we met. And it's fantastic. We love it. And we're looking forward to getting a mail from you in the future.
For sure.
But high quality animals, and he does a lot more than Lychees, as you've heard. So I will make sure that everybody can find you. And
thank you so much, Jeff.
yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. And we will see you all next time, guys.
See you guys. See you, Maddox. Have a good day. Bye, guys.
Dude, I can't.